Welcome to another episode of the Capital Playbook. My name is Charles Williams, and I am the owner and managing member of Pioneer Realty Capital. And we're so excited that you're with us today because we have a subject that I guarantee you're going to be very interested in. We have Mr. Joe James with us. He's with L-Sync Solutions. He's a general contractor, and we're going to learn a little bit. I lied. We're going to learn a lot about commercial real estate from that construction and development side. And if you're in commercial real estate, and if you're going to develop property, this is information you really want to know. But before we get into our discussion today, we have a couple housekeeping items we want to consider. One, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure and like us. Be sure and subscribe and ring the bell so that you are aware of our new episodes. And also, if you are listening on Spotify or Apple, do the same. Go ahead and like us. And when you do that and we build up our viewership, that allows us to bring in quality guests that can really help you with information that I guarantee you're going to appreciate as you advance in your commercial real estate career. But with that being said, please join me in welcoming Mr. Joe James. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. Yeah, so Joe is with L-Sync Solutions. You guys are a general contractor.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and so before we talk a little bit about general contracting and the role that you play in commercial real estate, how did you start in your career? How did your general contracting career begin?
So how we were actually able to start, one of the crazy things about it is that I worked in corporate America for about 9 years, transitioned, and as the company did a merger and acquisition, it was, of course, we had duplicate roles, and my role actually got eliminated. So it went from making over $100,000 a year to literally working and making nothing, right? So took 401k, severance package, unemployment, rolled it together and started a business. Well, our original business idea was that we were going to start a logistics firm. That was my background, supply chain management, but at the same time, we started off doing logistics. We acquired about 10 trucks. After we acquired 10 trucks, one of the biggest things that we were able to do was we secured contracts with other bigger firms, and it was going pretty well. Well, we were a minority certified organization. They said, okay, hey, can you do some work for us? So we started doing work, and as we kind of did a cost analysis, one of the biggest things that we defined is that, okay, they have more liabilities, of course, with our trucks versus, of course, doing construction. Well, I had a background in construction because my dad grew up from everything from cutting trees to roofing to, and one of the reasons why I went to college and played football was like, I'm not doing this, right? But it's funny because it comes full circle because now he actually currently works for me in our Atlanta office as one of our project managers. So it's a really, really good thing to be able to see that and how it transitions. So first year, we didn't make anything. You know, my idea was that, okay, within the first year, we were going to be millionaires and this was going to happen. Of course, you know, reality strikes. Right. So when reality strikes, we actually took it and my wife was like, okay, sir, you know, we're kind of dwindling down. We need to make this thing happen. And so the following year, after our first year, so that would be our second year, we got a contract for $63,000. Well, we were already still in the hole. But at the same time, it gave us a good sense that, okay, hey, we're on to something. And so after we started off doing trucking, construction kind of took over. So we did an analysis to see which opportunity would be better. Would it be construction or would it be the actual sticking them with logistics? And so we chose to really kind of hone in on what our construction needs. And so from there, it really became one of the best decisions we've ever made. Okay, so like many people, you have that beginning of your career. Yes. It's funny because my career is very similar. Right. You know, it all starts with getting fired. Yes. So getting fired will make you creative. Yes, it does. So so from there, logistics, and then to construction. Yep. And based on the conversation we were having earlier, you've had the opportunity to work with some major groups. Yes. So can you name some? Yeah, exactly. So our company we've done work for AT&T at their corporate headquarters. Same thing for T-Mobile. We did the Texas Ranger Stadium. We did some suite build outs, some of the exterior build outs for them. Amazon is one of our clients as well too. So we started our office in Dallas Fort Worth. Then we started building over a lot more in the Atlanta area, which was my original hometown. Then from there, we transitioned to an office in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay,
and so we work with HUD, which is a housing and urban development, which actually creates a lot of opportunities that a lot of people don't realize. So affordable homes, multifamilies, various things like that, where we became not only a vendor, but then we started to actually acquire a lot more opportunities within those organizations, such as dealing with Fort Worth housing authorities, Michigan housing authorities, the state of Georgia, Atlanta housing authorities, various housing authorities where we really kind of honed in on our skills. We're working with multifamilies, we're working with a lot of private investors as well too.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So you've had this breadth of experience working kind of with the government side, with some of these agencies, and also with the private side, Amazon, your T-Mobile, and some of these corporate clients. So no doubt you've gained a lot of experience in that role as a general contractor.
Exactly. And so with that, of course, the risks and liabilities is solely on us in a lot of ways. But at the same time, it creates a more opportunity where we're in control of exactly the end product, making sure the client is satisfied, making sure our subcontractors are actually getting everything is being reciprocated down to them as well too.
Okay, very good. So so it's interesting how these roles connect.
Yeah.
On the one end, you have the developer.
Yeah.
But that developer is more of the conceptual guy.
That's correct.
He's going to come in. He's going to look at a piece of dirt and imagine that this dirt could be this. It could be this multifamily project, or it could be this distribution center, whatever.
That's correct.
Right? He goes, he hires a design team, civil engineer, architect.
Yeah.
So this thing comes alive on paper.
That's correct.
All right?
Yeah.
And so, but in order to take it from that two-dimensional piece of paper to a real functional building, they need you.
That's exactly right. Right. So we take conception to reality. That's our biggest thing. And so similar to what you said a little bit earlier, there are so many components that a lot of people actually don't realize, right? So when you're dealing with, say, for instance, one owner or a client, and one of the things we have to be able to realize is managing their expectations. And what I mean by that is, okay, they may have a great idea of what they want to do, but we have to have them sit down and say, okay, what is your budget? What is your timeline? What type of clientele are you actually trying to reach? Are you doing a high-end client, a medium client, or a low-income family? Where are we trying to go with this, though, right? Then you can start to peel back the layers and figure out what exactly are we really trying to do. Okay, we're saying, okay, hey, I want this done within a year. Okay, well, we're looking at least 3 months to 4 months of just, utilities. Or are we looking at another 3 months for getting permits through a specific city? Those municipalities can kind of hold up a project. Or once you get into it, are we dealing with permitting issues? What are we dealing with? And those are some of the things that a lot of people really don't get a chance to see, but they're very, very important.
Okay, yeah, that's very good. So that so you might say that the developer's in dreamland.
Yes, but it's a good dream. It's really a good
dream.
It's a really good dream, right?
And the general contractor, who's his partner, because really it's important to have that great partnership.
It is definitely a partnership. And
but he's going to a good general contractor is going to be able to present it in a realistic setting.
Exactly. And one of the things that you try to do a cost analysis, you try to really get in and say, okay, hey, this is what our original best case scenario cost is going to be. What does that look like for you? Okay, well, we're coming in over $200,000 for our initial budget, but with these incentives right here, I think we can be able to come in and cut down this and that. How can we save you guys money? How can we increase the value of your property at the same time? Because you definitely don't want to lose value. You don't want to lose money, right? So you're trying to get the best case scenario in all things. Okay.
So now I know there's a great deal of vetting on the developer side where they're vetting out that general contractor to make sure that they have the qualifications to build this building.
Correct.
What would you say are some of the key qualifications that most developers are looking for in that general contractor?
Well, one, can you actually float this project completely, right?
Okay.
Can you float it for the duration?
Now, when you say float the project, what do you mean?
In worst case scenario, if funding is drawn up for at least 90 days, 6 months, are you going to be able to pay your sub? That's exactly right.
Okay.
Right.
So really, the general contractor, good general contractor, is going to need some financial wherewithal.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Yeah. To manage in case the developer, for whatever reason, can't pay him.
That's exactly right. Right. And usually, and believe it or not, it actually flows down to your supplier base because you want your supplier base to at least be able to float the project. Of course, some smaller ones, 30 days, medium size, 45, sometimes 60. Depends on what you want to do. Because if you think about it, by the time you're actually starting to get into the meat of the project, if you're already floating 60 days, that's 30 days where you're actually working there. Now we're another 30 days, 2 months of actual work, and now you're actually being paid for that. So now you can actually create a buffer within that, which is good. It's all about cash flow, right? Right. And so we want to make sure that, one, not only we're vetting from a financial perspective, but the quality of work. Have you done any of your projects of this size and scale? Is this going to be something too big for you to be able to complete? How does that look? Have you done anything with the type of quality that we're looking? Like I said before, low income or median income is going to be totally different from high end. Right. So. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what's interesting to me is the general contractor, in most cases, they're not the ones. That company is not the ones doing the actual work. Yes. You're basically managing the subcontractors in most cases. I know that in your case, you self-perform some.
Yeah, we self-perform some, correct.
Yeah, but in most cases, you're going to be hiring the other trades.
Yes.
So how do you... so if I'm a developer, I'm coming to you and I'm vetting you based on what you just said.
Yep.
Quality of work. Have you done this before?
Yep.
But you're not the guy doing the work. You're going to go hire the people that do the work. What does a good general contractor do to make me feel comfortable with your ability to hire the right subs? Yep. And then to properly manage those subs.
Exactly. So one of the things we like to say within our industry is that you're only as good as your least qualified sub. Meaning, okay, I'll give you a case and scenario. You have a mechanical person, the mechanical company, they can do certain things, but they can't do it all, right? So you get into it, and then now you're in the middle of the project, and in order for mechanical to be able to complete certain things, they can't complete them. The quality is not there. So now you run into issues. Well, now this doesn't just affect mechanical. It affects electrical. It affects plumbing. It affects your drywall guys. You can't close up any walls and you can't pass inspections, right? So now you have delays. You have all these other things that a lot of people really don't realize that. So in order to do that, you have to have a really good quality supplier base. We usually try to have at least about 10 of subcontractors for each trade. And what I mean by that is, of course, you have scheduling conflicts. Right. Okay, some, they may not be able to do their own project for the next 6 months. How are you going to be? Are you going to just be stuck on that one? No, you have other people that you're going to work with. So those are some of the things that we kind of look at to be able to kind of vet. So not only from a financial perspective, but also, can you actually do the work?
Now, so I know a lot of developers will, in general contractors alike, will protect their financial interest in a deal by requiring a general contractor to be bonded.
Correct.
Now, many may not be familiar with that. Tell us, what exactly is bonding, and why is it important for a general contractor and or the subs to have bonding?
So bonding actually protects not only the general contractor, but it also, believe it or not, it actually protects the subcontractor too, right? Okay. And say, for instance, if you're not able to complete the project, then what we will do, we'll work with the bonding company to be able to either release funds, or they will sometimes replace you with another firm to be able to complete that work. And so then from there, if you're not able to complete that work, then now we'll go with company B, which the bonding company sometimes release, and they'll connect us with that. And then from a financial perspective, if company B is not able to do that, then of course we will go back after the bond. So if we're able to go after the bond, and then those funds are released, so then that way we're not losing any money, and we're recouping those funds to be able to complete the project or replace wherever that subcontractor is left off. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So the bond is actually an insurance policy that the contractors are required to go out and obtain to protect the value of their work.
That's
so
exactly.
For whatever reason, if they can't complete it or the subs can't complete it, the insurance company will come in and make sure that gets completed.
Yep. And so it's an additional insurance on top of your standard insurance, right? So your general liabilities or anything else like that. So those are two separate types of insurances. One is to protect the financial aspect and interests of all parties, and then the other one, of course, is for safety and any measures that may happen, accidents on the projects and stuff like that.
Okay. So now we talked about how that developer would vet and make sure the general contractor is qualified to bring this vision to life. From a general contracting perspective, is there any vetting that you do of the developer?
Yes.
And why would you say it's important to properly vet the developer?
Well, one of the reasons why a lot of people, I think when you start to think about the grand projects and various things like that, you have to look at the intricate details of, okay, can the developer actually fund what they're expecting, right? Or is the onus just going to be on us and we're pretty much funding the whole project and the developer can't fund it? Well, if you're in that process, you want to be able to vet them. And how we do it, we look at, okay, have you done similar to what they do for us? We require the same thing. Have you done a project to this scale, right? Have you funded a project to this scale? You know, and where are your funding sources? You don't have to give us the full detail, but we want to know, okay, hey, bank statements, or let's see exactly some of your financials that will help us to be able to paint a picture of who you actually are, right? So those are two things. But the good thing about it is that we require some of those same things for our sub. So that transparency flows down from the developer to us, and then from us to our subcontractor base, and all the way up.
Okay, yeah. So there's vetting on both sides.
It has
of that.
to be. It's almost as though we're dating, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, you mentioned that it is a partnership, and it only makes sense. You have the creative development side that's more conceptual, and then you have the practical side.
Yes.
And that's that general contractor whose expertise is taking a look at these plans.
Yes.
And then creating something out of it.
Exactly.
Now, so let me ask you. To make this thing happen, is it the case that you show up at a meeting with the developer, you get the contract, they award your contract, they give you a bunch of plans and specifications, they leave, they go to Hawaii for 9 months, they come back and this thing is built?
No.
It doesn't happen like that?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. If it did, I'm telling you, we would definitely be going with that direction.
Okay, so
but
tell me the importance of, because you and I talked about this earlier, the importance of good communication between that developer and that contracting team, not just the general contractor, the contracting team.
Exactly. And so similar to what you talked about, that is key. Because communication has to flow not only from the developers to the contractors, but also to our sub base and everybody else. Well, the reason why we do that is you have to have certain touch points, right? It's schedule creeps, where you have certain things that happen, material shortage. You have payroll issues, or you have issues where now a subcontractor's quit. How does that work, right? Or its funding has lost. Okay, so the developer, they had secured some funds, but now they're going through the process, and now they notice, okay, hey, you know what, we're not going to be able to have the funds that we started this project. We secured the funds, but now how are we going to be able to complete that stuff, right? So those are some of the things that it has to be, and you have to have a tough conversation, but you have to have an opportunity that an environment that invites good communication across the board. Right. And of course, you invite that across the board for everybody. If there's issues with our supplier base, we need to be able to communicate that to the developers. Developers need to be able to communicate to us their needs, their wants, and desires, and for us to be able to give them a reality check and say, okay, hey, we can do this, we can't do that. Right.
Yeah. So I can imagine that could be tough, but in order to make sure that communication is happening, what kind of processes have you seen implemented in a project that work well when it comes to really facilitating great communication?
Well, one, as we already know, finance is the fuel that gets the car down the road, right? Without that project is not going anywhere. Well, in order to do that, we always like to have either a cost analysis meeting beforehand, and if it's a longer project, longer than 6 months, then we like to have that at a 6-month point, because things have changed, materials have changed, costs have changed across the board. Sometimes supplier bases have changed. What does that look like? Not only just from a financial perspective, but even having a weekly touch point. Those are things that may sound simple, but at the same time, it creates that environment to be able to say, okay, hey, we know what our expectations are. We want to know exactly what our deliverables are, but can we achieve those? Yes or no? We have to be able to talk with the developers. Developers have to be able to talk with us and say, okay, hey, Joe, our timelines have changed. Okay, now we need this, in 4 months quicker than what we're talking about, though. Okay, well, we're already saying that, though. Well, our funding sources are saying, okay, hey, now we have interest on those funds, bro. Now we need to pay that up or something. It's so many scenarios that can happen in order to be able to. And our business is about mitigating risk and understanding exactly how can we deliver to the client. And as we already know, a lot of projects are never going to go perfect. So that's what we're here for to be able to mitigate the risk, to be able to kind of predict some of the contingencies that could happen that will allow you to have delays. Okay.
Yeah. So no doubt that as you've done this over 11 years. You've come up with some project management processes, the weekly meetings that you just mentioned. What else helps a project to go smoothly other than those weekly meetings? What other processes have you guys seen work well?
Yeah. So one, implementing a lot of project tools from automate. I'll try to automate as many processes as possible. Okay. So you don't have as many kind of hands in the pots, as so to speak, or whatever. And so when you're doing that, though, your automated tools, but you can never replace, and I know as much as we want to, you can never replace boots on the ground. Okay. Right? So your boots on the ground are going to give you a real temperature about where the lay of the land is going, where this project going, what are the, so to be able to have that realistic expectation of, okay, hey, this project, you know what, we thought the project was going to go a little bit slower, a little bit faster, but now it's starting to slow down. Okay, well, what are the reasons for the slowdown? Well, as we already know, with COVID, the supplier base has, some of the companies are not there anymore. We know with COVID, the material costs has went up 4 to 6 times for just a sheet of plywood. Those are the things that we have to be able to talk about because they affect the overall cost.
Okay, so scheduling, what you just mentioned, and then also a budget analysis or budget review on a regular basis. Definitely. Just to see where you are with in terms of cost and budget. Now you mentioned something interesting. We have experienced some impactful things here.
Correct.
I don't know if you heard, but there's something about this COVID COVID thing that's going around.
It's a real deal.
It's a real deal. For real that it's real. You're in the hospital for 20 days.
20 days.
At the same time, I was in the hospital for 7 days.
Yeah, exactly.
In the same month of August.
Exactly.
I didn't believe in COVID then, but I believe now.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
It is real.
It is a real deal.
Yeah.
It's a real deal. So,
but what impact has this new changed environment have on scheduling, have on prices, have on the ability to get sub? Have you seen any impact at all?
We've seen so many things that have changed. I mean, we were talking about within a 2-year period. Some of the things that we've seen change has been, some supplier companies have closed the doors. They did not make it through. Some of the other things we've seen, cost of material has gone up tremendously. And we're talking about everything from lumber to steel to stainless steel, all these other things that you would assume.
So who eats the cost? So if, let's say, for instance, I'm a developer. I just gave you a contract for $15 million to build these apartments.
Correct.
Okay. And, we've had some delays, weather delays, COVID, but I have a guaranteed fixed cost. Who eats that the increased cost of labor and material?
Yeah. So in a perfect world, we would just submit, say for instance, a change order. You approve the change order. You know what, Joe? We had an extra $2 million anyway. We were going to give it to you anyway, right?
That world is more than perfect.
It's more than perfect, right? Exactly. Right. But the reality of it is that's where we come into, okay, let's have a change order meeting. Our biggest thing is we bring in our suppliers to be able to show and justify the cost. Then from there, how does that cost look on from a labor perspective? And are we just doing T&I, which is going to be labor and material? Or of course, Are we going to do that? Or one of the other things too, are we looking at how we're going to be able to work with the developers to get these actual costs and understand? I'll say, hey, we have a meeting, we look at it, and then our overall thing is saying, okay, hey, do we agree upon these terms? Are we going to be able to eat this cost? What does this look like? Is it going to be a shared responsibility? How do we mitigate that? So those are the things. Yeah,
that has to be extremely challenging.
Very challenging.
Yeah.
Very challenging.
I know that we have a couple projects going, and I was surprised to find out we just paid our contractor $2 million more.
Wow.
Than
wow.
than we contracted for. So so that's changed. But one of the good things that I've noticed from the developer perspective is, my costs have gone up for material and for labor, but my values have gone up too.
I agree with that. I 100% agree with that though, because if this is a specific area that you specialize in, you work your area and you work it to the bone. And these companies, I mean, as resilient as a lot of people would think that they would not be, and during the season of COVID, it really has shown that a lot of companies are very, very resilient and honestly found a way to actually make it work. Yeah. And some companies have transitioned from, okay, you know what, all we do is just the exterior portion of the building. Now, you know what, there's an opportunity for us to be able to do the interior portion too. So now it creates a new avenue of revenue for a company.
Yeah, some growth opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So no doubt there are many challenges that you've been able to navigate through. What would you say? And I'm putting you on the spot here. In fact, I intended to we got to talking earlier, and I was going to tell you to think about this, but perhaps this is something you can think about. Give us your top 3 or top 5 recommendations. If you were talking to your developer, who's your client,
correct,
who's going to come and contract with you, what are the top 3 or 5 things that you would say that developer can do to get a more predictable outcome and to have a more successful experience with someone like you?
Well, one,
besides pay you, that's number one.
Of course,
pay me on time.
Pay me on time, right? That is exactly right.
Right.
But the biggest thing I think we talked a little bit about is communicate. You know, as this relationships builds, one of the things we really want to do is to make sure, okay, that this is not just a one-time project, right? After you go through a really good experience, you want to continuously work with that. Our biggest thing is that we love continuous work. And what I mean by that is we're not in the business to be able to do a project one time and one time only with one client. Because then from there, you have to go through the whole process of going through and
vetting each other.
Exactly. So after you've dated for a while, you want to say, okay, let's get married. Let's do this, right? And so as you guys as developers find more opportunities, then from us, we want to be able to have more opportunities with you guys as well. Right. So as you know, okay, hey, I know if I give this opportunity to Joe and his team, I know for a fact that they're going to handle it. I mean, I don't have to worry about it. All the great hairs, all the other opportunities, all the other stresses that people have, you don't have to worry about it though, once you get a good. And we actually like to stick. I mean, as big as these communities really are, as far as the industry of construction, is very small. Very, very small. So consistency is one of the things that we like to do. The second thing is the first thing was communication. Second thing was consistency, continuous work and consistency. The third thing is that we want to be able to give a really good product, and we have done that in the past. So being able to do that and repeat that work, it only adds to the value of us. Because, and of course, as you already know, if it's done well and it's done right, our work speaks for itself. And you guys, you go and tell another developer, hey,
I'm not telling anybody else. I'm going to keep you to myself. That's my competitive advantage.
There you go. There you go.
So, but okay, well, good. So, I'll say there are 4. I think making sure that that developer can pay you.
Well, you said
is
it
probably
for me.
number one.
You said it for me. So
number one. The communication and having that, building the kind of relationship that leads to that repeat business.
That's exactly
and on your side, that quality of work.
Quality of work.
Yeah.
Quality of work is second to none. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, that is what on our perspective, that's what's going to speak for itself.
Okay, very good. Mr. Joe James, Joe James of L Sync. We have his number up on the screen. If you're looking for someone to come and build something for you, take your concept, bring it to reality, do it right. You heard him say quality is most important. Give him a call. So thank you so much, Joe, for joining us on our show today.
Thanks for
we
having
look forward to working with you in the future, and certainly we'll love to have you back at some point in the future as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.